right, we're online now.
Morning, can you hear me? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, this morning we are going to be going over the 2022 action plan for the CDBG program. So in this meeting online, we have a couple call-in numbers, which I'm not sure. Can you unmute yourself and announce yourself just so I know?
Berquist.
Okay,
Is now joining.
Jeff Berquist.
all right. Anybody else that was a call-in? Okay, I see Jason Worley, Mike McCall, Mindy Bosson, and Tim King. All right, so we'll get started. Kristen's not.
Stay close to the door.
Just a minute, please. All right, the agenda, not going to go over that. So just real brief, Community Development Block Grant, what it is. The City of Sandusky is an entitlement community, which means that we directly receive money from HUD, which is the Department of Housing and Urban Development. And with those funds, the city is allowed to carry out certain activities which meet any of the three objectives. So those three objectives are that it benefits low to moderate income families, the activities, aids in prevention or elimination of slum and blight, or it fixes a community urgent need due to disaster. So for this year, it's anticipated that we'll have $799,000. That's just an estimate. We'll find out the actual amount later on in the year, but that's the number we're going with for right now. The program is on a fiscal year, so it doesn't start until June 30th and it ends on July 1st. It's a little different. In regards to funding for that program, there's certain stipulations that we have to follow. At least 70% of the program has to benefit LMI households. And I'm going to round numbers because there's a ton of numbers as usual with these. So $560,000 is the 70% of that. There's a 20% max that can be budgeted into a program administration category, and that's $160,000. And then 15% can be budgeted into public service, and the maximum is $120,000. So that is the different grantees. Briefly, this is the timeline for this year's plan. We met with the CPAC earlier in March. There were sub-recipient applications available. I'll talk more about that here in a minute. There was a public meeting, the first public meeting with the city on the 14th of March. Then the draft plan actually went up yesterday. If you're interested in reviewing it, it's on our website, or you can get it a hard copy by request. Today, the 23rd, we're doing our second CPAC meeting. And then our public comment period has opened, so we're receiving public comment periods right now. That's a 30-day public comment period. That'll end April 22nd. And then on May 9th, we'll have our second public hearing with the City Commission chambers. And then it will be considered May 9th at that meeting also. And then by May 14th, we have to send it to HUD. Oh, those numbers look so small on the screen. All right. So the top numbers we already went over. That was like the 70% LMI, max program administration, and public service numbers, so I'm not going to go over that. What I did was I tried to show the program budget from last year compared to this year, and then if we had any carryover funds to give everyone a clear idea where we're at. So for program administration this year, well, last year, there was $120,000 that was budgeted. I am recommending that we do $100,000 this year. There is about $16,000 in carryover, so there'll be about $116,000 budgeted for that activity. Fair housing, we did $10,000 last year. It's recommended we keep the same amount. I'm sorry, does someone have a comment? Okay, so anyways, sorry about that. Public facilities, 331,000 for last year. For this coming year, I'm recommending 316,000. There was about 8,000 carryover from last year. So that would be about 324,000. There's 265 of that would go to Public Works directly for repaving, those types of things. And then about 59,000 that would go to planning to do other projects. For code enforcement, it was $100,000 last year. I recommend keeping that the same. For rehabilitation, it was $67,000.
Well, if I could,
Sure.
can you let us know which category these are filling? It's not, what I'm missing here. So you have maximums you have 70%, 75% LMI, right?
Yes.
70% LMI.
Yep.
So which of these are LMI?
I'd have to go through and figure that out, but we can do that. We'll do that.
Okay, it's just
Yeah, I don't know right off the top of my head.
maybe we're missing an opportunity to understand which category each of these, and do some of these fulfill more than one category?
Yeah, it depends how there's a federal software and it depends how it's coded. That's why I can't answer it immediately.
Right, the first question is, what's code enforcement? Is that program administration, or is that, are we arguing that that benefits LMI, or for example?
Okay, well, we'll come back to your question in just a minute. Let's finish going through the numbers and then we'll go to that, okay? Does that help?
I didn't know if you wanted to comment as you went through, but.
Well, let's just finish since we're about halfway through here, and then I'll try to answer that for you. So for rehab, there was 68,000 for 2021, and then I recommended that there's 56,000 for 2022.
Is now exiting.
So there was a carryover of 68,000 from 2021. So that would give us about 124,000. This year, they did recommend possibly a painting program, exterior painting, just so you know. We'll talk more about the categories in a minute. Public services, those are for the applicants. That's 100,000 from last year. I recommended bumping it up to the max, 103,899. So that would be the max amount available. For youth program, it was 22,000 last year. I recommend that you go to 60,000. Clearance and demolition, we didn't have any costs last year. We used carryover funds. I recommend that we schedule in 40,000 for that, and then we have 19,000 carryover from 2019. So we'd have about 60,000 in that fund. For acquisition, again, we didn't have any money scheduled for that last year. I recommend this year, though, that we add 13,000 in there and then use the carryover from 2020. So we'll have about 100,000 in that fund. There was a planning grant that was funded last year that did not get carried out this year. I recommend that we don't fund anything with that, but just carry that over for this year. So to circle back to your question, program administration, so that is my salary, that is finance's salary, people who help me get the draws ready. It's part of Kristen's salary. It's multiple people. It's not just me. And it's also for public ads, that type of thing. Does that answer your question for that one?
Well, not really. What I'm getting at is the constraints that you're working with the percents. Like, for example, LMI has to be 70%, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah.
Are you classifying each of those?
Yeah, I'll as we go in.
That was all I was asking.
Okay.
The details of what each, what public feels, all the details I wasn't asking about. You, I'd welcome that information too.
Sure.
But what I was asking about is, which of those fulfill which?
Yeah, so there's different ways to categorize that. So like with fair housing, what we do is we track the people's location and their calls if they're low income. So that's part of how we do that. It's really complex, actually. And then with public facilities, we try to pave roads that are in LMI areas, so then those people would be considered beneficial. There's different numbers per census.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Those comments are helpful.
Okay. So yeah, public facilities would be like, we're doing some apron removals this year too, things like that. For code enforcement, they have to be in a CDBG area. So what I do is literally go through all the code reports and pull the ones that are only in CDBG areas, and then we have to calculate back that way. For rehab, it depends on where the project's at or the purpose of the project, so that one's kind of open. Public services, that is for like OGO or Second Harvest, any of those nonprofits, and that's going to depend on their location a lot of times where we get that LMI information. For the youth program, we do all our services for that in LMI areas, so it's, LMI kids, households. There's a form on the rec desk actually that collects all that online information, because I actually have to go through and report all this stuff at the end of the year through the CAPER. For clearance and demo, same thing. A lot of that is slum and blight clearance, so it depends, where it's located. We've been doing quite a bit of demolitions lately, so that's why I recommended we added some more money in there just to make sure we have enough to get through the next year's projects. Acquisition, they're using that to purchase like a dilapidated property or a way to better an environment, a neighborhood. Again, it's really location specific. And then the planning study is going to be just citywide. It's more like an administration because it's a plan. Anyone else have any questions on those? Yeah,
I've got four.
you can speak in the microphone if you want.
Okay,
You
yeah,
got it?
okay. I have four questions real quick. So, under all these different subcategories, what type of questions or concerns do you want from the public? Like something in detail, like on the housing rehab, like
Yeah.
recommendations on a, like you said, a paint program?
Yeah, like if there's something in particular that they think would be good. Our thinking was possibly a paint program with anybody who had exterior violations from code enforcement, a way to fix that. We'd have to set the program up, but you got to just think of ideas, I think, like that. So if there's a really good program you think we should do, I would like to hear that.
Okay, and I know Commissioner Waddington has
Yes.
brought that up a number of times, so
Yes.
I'm thinking that's probably going to be included in, 2022.
And yeah, and that would have to be, LMI eligible people. We'd have to set that whole program up.
And then going back to 2021, I think there was discussion on taking down trees on private property if they're.
Yes, so we weren't able to do that, and that's why the funding still carried over. So we ended up thinking that we're going to make it a little larger amount this year and then have a larger program.
Okay, so that type program is eligible?
The tree removal is
not,
not,
okay.
unless we do a rehab with the house, so that made it really complicated.
So, okay, so you can tie it in somehow?
Yes, so that's why we ended up skipping that.
Okay. Are we using was the census done in 2020, correct?
I believe it was 2019.
Was it 2019? Okay.
I believe that they used the ACS. I had just sent an email out regarding that.
Okay, so we're using the 2019 census, which still knocks out the west end for any kind of CDBG eligibility.
Yes, so HUD does the ACS, the 5-year, and that's the newest data that they have down, so.
And you were kind enough to send me a link, I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
But the problem is, within that link, like 17 other links come up too, so.
They're large
Do
shape
you have,
files,
do you have any
yep.
idea like which one I should be looking at for that determination that the west side's been knocked out?
Well, actually, what you'd have to do, it's a little more complicated. You'd have to open the file, and then I believe that was all of Ohio's. Then you'd have to scan out just Erie counties, and then just the city of Sandusky's, and then you'd actually have to identify the different census tracts and block groups.
Okay, I got you.
So, yeah, it's a little more complicated than.
I got a little time.
Yeah, so that's how you
yeah.
do it.
Okay, let's see, I did post this meeting on social media. And one question I did get back was, again, going back to peeling paint. The code enforcement goes out, they look at the property, they give the owner a violation, and then they come back, whatever, a month later, and if it's still a violation, and they write them up and charge them $100, whatever it is. So maybe under that peeling paint program, if we do that, the city could work out some kind of an agreement with one of the local, like Home Depot, Lowe's, Menards, where you would give those folks a voucher for, so much off on paint, or, buy the paint completely, or, there's always got to be a little bit of sweat equity in everything. I mean, you can't,
Yeah,
you can't expect the city to pay for everything. So there's got to be a little bit of responsibility there on the homeowner, the renter, whatever. So,
we'll structure that as we get going.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Did you have any other questions?
one more.
Yep.
Rental and homeownership rehab. We have the housing beautification program,
Yes,
which was $400,000 this year.
yes.
Those applications, I think, they were like all turned in within 5 days.
Yep, the funds go fast, and Debbie Eversole does that program for our office, but
So
yeah.
this maybe should be something that we should be adding money from CDBG into, or different, make it a separate program, but, add more money somehow towards it.
Yeah, that's why, we carried the funds over, and we still added some. I thought it would
Okay.
make it a little more robust, so.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's it.
Anybody else? Yeah.
Okay, I've got 4 things here. I wasn't at the last meeting, but I was disappointed that you did not allow the committee, before some of this draft business was done, you didn't allow the committee to put forth some suggestions. In the past, we've always done it that way,
Okay.
and I was wondering if you could do that next year.
Yeah, you are always welcome to send me emails
Well,
or letters or call me, and I'll write it down.
During the public meeting,
Yes.
at the last meeting, that was not done. I know you can do it afterwards, but
Yes.
I want to get those suggestions down before the draft is made up, so we get an idea what's happening, especially with the nonprofits, because they're kind of a little late in applying.
Well, yeah. See, we don't even have all of those yet. That's where I was going to get to here in a minute, but I'll let you finish your
It
question.
just appears that you're rushing all of this through when we should have backed this up a while ago and started planning the right way to do this. Also, you said the draft budget was out.
Yes.
We were not, as a committee, allowed to see this until right now.
Yes, there's a
Okay?
30-day public comment
So I
period.
think if we could have had this 2 or 3 days before the meeting, we could have asked better questions
Sure.
and suggestions. If we could
You're
do that.
welcome to ask questions whenever, too. If you want to talk after this meeting, that's fine.
I'll get it on record.
Okay.
Also, I'm with Mike. We need some details on this. This is just basic, a breakdown on public facilities. I don't know, does that include streets?
Yes.
Okay, what kind of streets are we talking about here? Do we have any idea?
So how that works is the engineering department will send me a list of streets.
Okay.
They have a pavement condition rating system. They have a whole system set up on what streets need repaved when.
Because you already have plugged in $316,000. Now, is that all for streets, or?
No, the $59,000 is going to be for planning to do whatever improvements we need to do in there. So traditionally, it's always been very vague like this.
Okay, let's hope your next draft is not vague, because we need to have a detail here. I like to see more streets and demos done. I'm concerned about $40,000 for clearance and demo. I don't know if that's enough.
There's $19,000 also for carryover, so altogether, there's about $57,000.
Well, have you seen the listing? Is that going to cover for the listing for 2022 for demos?
We don't know which one we're doing yet. The process, we kind of, as it goes. Code enforcement will send me a list of houses, and then we do all the ones we can afford to do.
Okay, so the next time we meet, you'll have all of those details then?
Not
No?
necessarily, nope. It's throughout the year.
Okay, for acquisition, is this just purely residential acquisition, or are we talking commercial
I think
for
you can
development?
buy anything as long as it's used a certain way for public good. And I believe this is for residential, though.
Residential?
Yeah, I believe this is reserved for residential. Like, we bought some properties on Forest Drive, and then we demoed those properties.
Okay, I
Last
just
year.
wondered if commercial demos were involved in this.
I'm not sure. I want to say yes, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, can you check that out and
Yeah.
get back with me?
Yep.
Okay. And you have 20,000 for planning. What kind, I'm sorry, what kind of planning is this?
So originally, we were going to do a transit study.
A
and-
transient?
A transit.
Okay.
Yes. So in the meanwhile, we applied for funding through ODOT and actually got it funded 100%, which frees up this money. So the city's also doing a strategic plan this year, so I believe they're going to use some of this money towards that.
Okay. Let's see. Public services. $103,000. I'm sorry, what did you say that was for?
So that is for applicants like OGO or Second Harvest or Victory Kitchen.
Oh,
when they-
nonprofits? Like-
Yes, yep, exactly.
Maybe you could put in parentheses nonprofits. So we
Yeah.
know. This is kind of a new setup that you have going here. Let's see. Okay, for rehab, is this for rehabbing houses? Are these going to be like mini grants or something, or what?
Yeah, there'll be a separate program that will be all set up. We have to go through and do applications and income verification and everything like that.
The city's going to do that part?
More than likely, we haven't broached that yet, but as soon as we get moving in the year.
And is it going to be a different criteria than we usually follow for?
I don't know, we haven't set it up yet, so I'm assuming it's going to be code enforcement violation, people with exterior violations already.
Oh, okay, good. I'm glad to see that because so many people, I'm on the Housing Appeals Committee, and so many times people come and they can't afford to paint their house or,
Yeah.
rehab whatever's going on there, especially the elderly people. And then we end up finding them big fines and everything instead of helping them along and trying to find a resource to help them.
Yep,
So this is, let's see, you have got 56,000? Is that
Yeah.
going to be enough?
there's carryover from 2021, so it's about actually 124,000.
104?
124.
24, okay, gotcha. All right, okay, hopefully that's going to be enough. I really like that idea
Great.
for that. So I think I'm done with my questions.
Okay. Anyone else? Anyone online?
Can I offer one suggestion if
Sure.
everybody else? I think at the public hearing before the city commission, it was brought up about the way the city advertises for these funds.
For the subrecipient funds?
Well, for any of it, like,
Okay.
or even the public hearings, like we're having today or whatever. I'd like you to consider maybe putting a small advertisement in the newspaper for the final hearing.
We do.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I thought it all.
We
was
have
on-
to. Yeah, we
I
do.
thought it was all on social media.
No.
Okay.
No, we do every meeting.
That's good.
Yeah. So I just wanted to say that we did do a subrecipient round. I thought you were talking about this. So we didn't get very many applications. So I want to extend this till April 4th, just so we get a more robust amount of people. And we're going to try to put this on our Facebook page to try to get some more applicants. And I was going to do public comment, but we kind of already talked about this. If you have a comment from reading the plan or from this presentation, you can give it to me at any time, and I will put it within the plan, and then we'll talk about it at the public hearing. And that is all I have. The plan is available online. I put the website on the PowerPoint. My phone number's on there and my email. If anyone has any other questions, I'll take them.
I'm sorry, on the rehab,
Yeah,
on that program, on the criteria, policies and procedures, will you have that for the next draft? So you can
No.
tell, you won't?
that's something that we end up doing. Right now, I'm trying to honestly spend rest of the 2021 funds down. We just have to have this kind of set up a little bit. The details come in more as we plan further in the year. I don't have time right now to set up the program because I'm trying to finish up last year's. if that makes sense.
Okay. How much are we have out there for 2021 we haven't used up?
For
The money? How much
the
money is-
total grant amount, I'm guessing it's $799. That's the other thing. We don't get a final amount till later in the year.
No, from last year, how much do we have left over that we're going to carry?
That varies because some of these funds are spent and it doesn't show up. So the last presentation, I gave an overview of that, if you want to look at that one. That has actually decreased. I've done 2 draws in between there.
Okay.
So even more money has been spent.
This is almost like a full-time job, isn't
It is a full-time job, yes, it is.
Is that
That's
what
what
you
I
do?
do.
Is just full-time on this
This is
completely?
my bread and butter, yep.
Wow.
So, yeah, it constantly changes. So it depends on the day. Like literally this morning, I just did a $20,000 draw. So if that answers your question, we're trying to spend it as fast as we can. There's a lot of steps in between there to get that stuff spent.
Yeah, I didn't see too many drawdowns this year, so.
Yeah, I've been trying. So we're getting there.
So you're showing a $217,000 carryover, but it might be less than that?
It may be.
Okay.
That's an estimate. They're always estimates until we get closer to the end of the year. If somebody submits something we weren't expecting, like with the code enforcement, it really depends on their location. There's a lot of variables.
Can I just say something? In one of our meetings years ago, one of the gals who was the director of this, she was going to look into doing, instead of this, it's not from January to January, it's like July to July, isn't it?
It's June to July. Yeah, June
June to
30th, July
July.
1st.
And that really gets confusing,
It's a federal requirement, though.
but they won't change it or
No,
anything? That's
it's
the way.
through HUD, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, I wish they would. I know there's other federal organizations around here that do that too.
And I don't believe in this carryover either. I think you either use it or lose it,
Yeah, with the public services, they are not allowed to carry that over. That would go automatically into a different category. And that stuff's spelled out in the action plan. So when you review the 2022 action plan, you can see that. And that change, we can put in there, spend your funds. We still may have carryover, though, if something isn't spent all the way. I can't predict, like I was just saying with code enforcement, if we're going to have, exactly this many inspections. So we have to have a little grace in there.
A little, I could see,
Yep.
but not a whole lot. It's just my opinion.
To be fair, there's been, this position's there's been about 3 people in here in the last couple years, and I'm new, and we're trying. So.
Okay, I'll cut you some slack.
All right. Anything else?
Nope.
All right. Anyone online? All right. Well, thank you, and if you're interested in applying, please get a subrecipient application. They are in the lobby, and they're also online. Okay.